Hey, greetings. I actually allowed myself 3 extra days for testing on the new Fujifilm XH2s. Yeah, there we go. This also too answers a lot of the questions about things I saw and read from other people on the XH2s, because Fujifilm didn't let me have out this camera. Better late than never though, right? So let's get into it. The full review on the Fujifilm XH2s. You should use my small iPad for the notes on this one instead of my large iPad, which I actually never use this thing. It never gets any usage, which is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. Here we go. I can't stand video reviews where people read off the specifications on a camera, which you don't need to know. You can go to B&H or Adoram or any other place and get the specifications on it. So do I need to go over that? I don't think I do. $2,500. Is it worth it for the XH2s? Here's my XT4 with vertical grip on it. I think a lot of you actually have the XT4. It's already a known fact that we don't know the actual price, even though it's supposedly been announced on the photography-centric version of this camera, which I've told everybody there'd be a video-centric version and a photo-centric version, and they'd be the exact same camera body, and they are going to be the same camera body. Supposedly the photo-centric camera is going to be cheaper, and it's of course going to be a different sensor, a 40 megapixel sensor, instead of this unit. Oh goodness, and I got a list here of the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good section, it's not going to take me too long to get through. By the way, I love Fujifilm. I am not sponsored or compensated in any way. Yeah, a friend let me borrow this XH2s. I have no affiliate links for years. Okay, huge Fujifilm fan. Yeah, huge Fujifilm fan. People get upset too before doing this review, whether you say something really positive about a camera or whether you say something really negative about a camera. I get really sick of that. I find it reprehensible, vile, and disgusting, since I have no affiliate links at all, and all my reviews pan out to be true on the cameras. And there are many examples like the Nikon D500. I told everybody to get it. It's the best thing since sliced cheese. And tons of people got it, and they all agreed with me. Said the same thing about the Nikon D850. Anyway, the cameras. Let's get to it. So, very little rolling shutter for video. Is it that much better for video? 1000% no way. This confirms the same thing so many other people said. There is reduced rolling shutter, but the IBIS combined with the improvement on this camera. Wonderful buffer too. Great. Extremely fast for image buffering on continuous high. On the CF Express cards, you have an SD card slot and of course a CF Express card slot. Great ergonomics. Yes and no. Actually, I'm not that much of a fan on the ergonomics of this camera. I guess I have medium-sized hands. It's kind of bulky. Is it similar to with the vertical grip on the XH1? It kind of is. Does it remind me of the newest GFX Fujifilm camera? Yes, it does. This is a crop sensor camera, not a medium format camera. That actually makes it for the good list on the XH2s here. I mean that. I like to keep this video short and sweet. A lot of people in the past said I better too much information than too little, said I drone on my video reviews of certain cameras and or lenses. So that was the good, which was an extremely short list. Now to the bad. It still has bad face tracking. Countless different lenses. Issue. I find it absolutely no better than the XT4. And I mean that seriously. I did my friends at the leather store, I did family members. I can't see any better face tracking. And others report this too. I cannot find any better face tracking, eye tracking. Now, of course, we have all sorts of additional options like bird tracking, separate entity, which is really kind of lame. The algorithm should actually have one entity for animal tracking. So we got a separate case for bird tracking and a separate case for animal tracking, which is really quite bizarre, and it's not what Sony or Canon have actually done on this instance. So No, still bad tracking for face tracking. One thing that really pissed me off is that the front dial for manual, single, and continuous, of course, is completely gone. There's a reason for this. You can say, well, this is a video-centric camera. You can press on the front button and actually click the rear command dial, one way or the other, to scroll between the three different options, which means instead of just coming up here and turning the switch, the real reason is that that three-position toggle switch is actually substantially more expensive than another push button in its place. So that's a cost-saving feature, which should not be the case on this expensive camera. Expensive? Expensive relative to what? $2,500. So that's gone. IBIS and panning is still quite jerky in video. I tried nearly every option. It is still jerky. Countless other people report the exact same issue. Images are not a single bit better out of this new sensor than there is the XT4, except for extreme high ISO, and even then only a little bit. In fact, I actually consider the output muddier and far less pleasing than that of the XT4. Here's the ugly side, which is quite a long list, to be frank with you. One thing that really pissed me off, which should not be on this $2,500 camera, is that there is no clickability on the front and rear command dials. Absolutely none. No clickability. I use it all the time for zoom, 100% zoom and playback, which now becomes an extreme pain in the butt. I can't actually have my eye to the viewfinder and click. I actually have to go back and double tap on the touch LCD to see it 100%, then move around when it's actually sunny outside. I don't like that at all. Sorry, don't like that. That brings in two extra steps into looking at 100%, which I do all the time. The lack of clickable front and rear command. Well, it's video centric. No, those should still be there. You actually need more controls for video than you do for photography. They should be there. So I know someone's going to use that as, well, it's video-centric camera. Well, I just dropped my CF Express card. I'll get that later. This should still be there on this camera, especially for $2,500. That actually really pissed me off. Here's something that's a big no-no, and Fujifilm did it on the XT4 too. There's no charger with this camera. A lot of people might consider this their first Fujifilm camera. I've got the charger over here. Here we go. You have to get one of these suckers. It's a dual charger. I think it's what, $69? No. Here's something else I found quite amazing. It's the one thing that almost made me cry, not literally cry, is that it feels cheaply made. I mean that seriously. I wrote a free book on Fujifilm. I got Fujifilm tattooed on me for the rest of my life. I obviously love their cameras. God knows I've spent a fortune on Fujifilm photography equipment. So I'm certainly the furthest thing from a Fujifilm hater. Fujifilm's probably going to crucify me for this video. But at least I'm honest in this video. I will sleep soundly at night being honest to this camera. And I double and triple thought before making this video to say that this camera does feel cheaply made. I'm sorry, it does. There's insufficient control dials. The price for what it is horrific. Now I can actually say on this camera, this is the first time threshold which has been met from Fujifilm, and I have absolute nothing but disdain for Sony and their corporate ethos and how poorly they make cameras. That Sony is making a tougher camera than Fuji is, and that should not be the case on this crop sensor $2,500 camera. It should not be the case. You can get a used Nikon D850, which is a hell of a camera. And I have no love for Nikon. I mean, I've loved Nikon, grew up with Nikon, love Nikon. Say, well, I've got $2,500 to spend when I spend it on this new XH2s or a minty used Nikon D850. The answer is a Nikon D850. You should not buy this camera. This camera is not a $2,500 camera. I'm sorry, it's just not. Many people are reporting bad video focusing, not just me. Camera's conspiracy guys are, the DP guys are, several other people, so don't wag your finger at me about this. I don't claim to be a video person, and I never have. But it's like, what am I doing wrong? I mean, I know Fujifilm controls inside and out way better than most people do, so it's not like that I don't know how to use the camera, because the interface remains the same between the X-T4 and other Fujifilm cameras as it does on the XH2s, except for some additions, so I know exactly how to use the damn camera. Conclusions. And if I were a blind person, I would say this feels like a different Ergo's cheaply made XT30. It's just cheap all around. They cheaped out on several things. Lack of front and rear command. Clickable dials. Extremely insane. Absolutely just insane. Removal of the front dial. That was to save money. No. Absolutely no. No charger. None. What were you thinking, Fujifilm? Include this. This doesn't cost Fujifilm $10 to make. You're going to charge $2,500 for a camera. A lot of people, this will be their first Fujifilm cameras. Well, you should have the charger already. You already have. Yeah, that's because I have so many freaking Fujifilm cameras. Of course I've got this charger. It takes the same batteries as my XT4 here does. What if someone else is just, well, I love Fujifilm cameras, and get me, well, there's no charger in here. I got to buy a charger? No, it's not right. In-body camera charger. Well, you could charge it with a USB cable right here to the side port and the USB. No, you don't want to do that. That charges across the main board. If there's a power surge, so we have lightning storms here for the past several days, that could wreck your camera. Never charge your batteries in camera, especially if you're traveling abroad. Big mistake. No. The original XH1 was a tank, a lot of dials, high construction build. X-T4 is a far better camera for general photography than the XH2s for $800 less money. Depends where you get it from. It's actually, some places, $900 less money for the X-T4. Of course, I have it with a vertical grip on here currently. I think you can see the difference between the dials, what Fujifilm gives you on this versus on the X-T4. Do I need dials? No. Do I appreciate them? Yes. Do they cost money to slap on a camera and take up more time and labor to build? Yes, they do. But for $2,500, there needs to be another dial on this camera. Sorry, there does. Or a sub dial. Should be at least a sub command dial on this camera. There does. I'm sorry. You don't agree with me? That's perfectly fine. There's almost no thought that's put into this camera. Literally none. And I make this as a bold, not subjective, rather objective statement. It absolutely shows that extremely little thought, other than sticking in a different bus card system, which buffers really fast. CF Express card, undeniable. You know, compared to the fastest SD card, 100% undeniable. Is this a step up? If you actually forget about the sensor, there's no better images. There's not one person that's reviewed this camera that has said, that I'm aware of, and I'm in full agreement 100%, that says this camera produces any better images than the X-T4 does, or even the X-T3. It just does not. It's a totally different sensor. Of course it does. Of course it is. Other than the bus card for continuous high buffering and the sensor on the sensor/IBIS assembly in this camera, this is basically an XH2s version of you know, the budget XT30. It feels that cheap too. Says who? So that's your opinion. I know someone's going to say that right now. That's your opinion. I don't agree with it. Well, I love Fujifilm. I've had more Fujifilm cameras pass through my hands than you have. I'm telling you right now, this is cheap and it doesn't have much forethought in it. So other than the new sensor tech that's in this camera, adjusted for time from since when the X, and I know there's been a plandemic for the past 2 years. Yes, I said plandemic. Other than that, adjusted for time, this is a huge step down from the XH1. So yes, I know it's a lot faster, and I know it has a much, it has improved IBIS. Yeah, I know that. When I say step down, I said adjusted for time. This is a huge step down from the XH1. Adjusted for time. It's kind of like adjusted for inflation, like $100 back in 1900 would be equal to $10,000 today. That's adjusted for inflation. I'm saying adjusted for time. This is a huge step down. For $2,500, it's absolutely a step down. If you're buying this for anything other than moderate improved video capabilities over that of the X-T4. Anything other than that, you're buying this for anything photography related. It's like, yes, does it have better continuous high buffering? You know, you could rip off a lot of shots and the buffer clears quickly. Yes, it does. Is there any reason to, and I can't use the word upgrade because there's no way in heck that this is an upgrade from the X-T4. Sure it is. It's better sensor. It's got using CF Express cards. No, it is not a better camera than the X-T4. In many senses, it's made worse. Way, even the X-T4, I can't believe they took off the front and rear clickable command dials on this thing. What was Fujifilm thinking? They weren't thinking. I know Fujifilm will want to choke me for this review, choke me out, but at least I was honest. I don't have any affiliate links. I don't work for Fujifilm. I'm not selling anything other than, like, you know, handmade leather goods, which doesn't account for this video. You know, at least I'm honest in the review of what this camera is and what it is not. My personal position on this particular camera, that it's a hardcore bummer. Best car analogy for this camera, this is a high-performance sensor engine with no better image output for standard photography. High-performance sensor engine, an improved data card, bus, slapped inside of a fake cheap fiberglass knockoff of a Lamborghini body, if we'd say that the body of the XH1 was a Lamborghini. The price on this camera should not be more than $1,800. It should not be. What it's lacking? Sure, how could you say that? It's got a CF Express card and an improved sensor in it! Yes, it does. When reviewing something, you have to look at the totality of what something is. Out of a rating out of 10, what do I give this camera? I give it a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10. The only reason it gets a 4 out of 10 is due to the fact that it can clear the buffer really, really fast for continuous high shooting. I actually find the image output on this over that of the X-T4 or the X-T3 as muddy. I'm not the only person that said that. It's like, it's really muddy looking on this. It is. The image output is muddy. Does that better high ISO performance? Yes, I give this camera a 4 out of 10. Fujifilm's probably going to choke me out over this video. You know, they don't pay me to say anything about this camera one way or the other, and I don't work for them, and they don't pay me. I'm sorry it took so long for me to review this camera. I can't recommend it. I have stated since day one that I am not a person that likes video. I see, other than the fact that you can stick a $200 cooling unit on the back of this thing and film in you know, compressed 4K for like over an hour without overheating, fine, this is a known entity. That's in the specifications list for this camera. Is this camera worth $2,500? Not even a snowflake's chance in hell. I'm sorry, it's not. You remove this dial for no logical reason other than to save money. You remove the front and rear clickable. That's, by the way, that's another expensive part. It's much considerably more expensive. You remove the front and rear. It's not clickable on a $2,500 Fujifilm camera. That is insane. What were you thinking, Fuji? There should at least be a sub-command dial over here. This, if you just look at this part of the camera, you will harken back, if you know anything about cameras, to a $400 cheapo Nikon or an XT20. It's like, let's look at that. Let's look at the PASM dial. It's like, oh, look. This says $500 cheap camera. Fujifilm knows it. You know it if you're going to be honest with yourself. Big mistake. Big mistake. And why did you cheap on the build quality on this? Why, Fujifilm, did you cheap on the build quality on this? If you're going to cheap on the build quality, please, for God's sakes, make the camera less expensive. This is basically like, we're not going to make an XH2 like we made that tank of an XH1, and the XH1 was a tank. If you had one, you know what I'm talking about. Or still have one, that old camera is still highly in demand. People buy them up like crazy. You know, we're going to make a camera like that. It's too expensive. And it was costly and expensive for Fujifilm to make that camera. but it was the first one of a new line. It's like, what we're going to do is we're going to basically make an XT30 version of the XH1's upgrade, which is the XH2s. And by the way, the XH2, the 40 megapixel photography-centric camera, it's already known, as I've stated, going to be the same body as this. I hope to God Fujifilm comes to its senses and introduces the, reintroduces, excuse me, the SCM switch up here in front, where it's been for many, many years, and brings back the front and rear clickable command. It should be on this camera. You need more controls for video than you do for photography. Oh God! If it wasn't for the fact that this camera clears out images so quickly from its buffer, I'd give this a 3.5 out of 10. No. This is exactly that. It's an XT30 version of the XH1 upgraded, if you can call it an upgrade. Sure, it's upgraded. That's all people will ignorantly think. People that are myopic, they'll say, well, it's got a CF Express cards way faster than the old slow SD cards and way faster buffering and clearing. Yes, it is. And it's got an improved sensor in it with better ISO performance. Yes, it does. However, the images look muddy. The images out of the XH1 actually look better than they do out of this camera. There's not one single person that says that the image quality out of this camera looks any better than that of their XT4, XT3, or even their XH1. Not a single person that I know of. And they are right, and I am right too. They don't look any better. So my question is why did Fujifilm bring out an XT30 equivalent of the XH2's upgrade for $2,500. It's missing front and rear clickable command dials, missing your front switch, cheaper build quality, and completely missing a charger. If you're going to charge $2,500 Fujifilm, this $15 part that you charge $69 for should be in the box. It's not my opinion, it's a fact. That's not my opinion, it's a fact. Like this review, hate this review, no affiliate links, I'm not paid either way. I was honest to the camera, and there is where it will rest. Okay? Lux e veritas. Goodbye. Jesus Christ.